Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the show. I am Jeff Waldorf, a logical lefty, and this is my show. And look, it is Wednesday, April 16th, 2025, and we are a few months now into the Trump regime, and things are not getting better, but there is a little bit of hope here. A little bit of hopium here that people are going to continue to fight back. I have a story on that later with Bernie Sanders and AOC and their Fight Oligarchy tour. How's that going? Pretty darn good, turns out. So I've got some video and on that and a poll here about what Democratic voters want from their elected officials. A lot of interesting stuff there. We also going to talk about FEMA denying storm damage assistance. The thing that Trump was talking about, was warning about, like, do you know that the Democrats under Joe Biden are denying FEMA funding? Well, that wasn't true, but guess what? It's true now, because Trump is literally doing it. Not just to blue states, by the way, but to red states too, Arkansas. So that's a disaster. I'm going to talk about it. I don't think a lot of people are talking about it, so let's get into it. We have also people receiving orders to self-deport. U.S. citizens receiving them. So is it a coincidence, or is it something more nefarious? I will talk about it. We've got a heckler that trolled Marjorie Taylor Greene during a town hall. That's funny. I love it. Donald Trump caves to big pharma, screws sick people over. Unsurprising, but we've got that story as well. Coffee Crow in the chat asks, anyone else see the satellite photo of the El Salvadoran prison? Yes, I have seen that, and that is scary. That is incredibly scary. This is dystopian Nazi stuff, and it's happening right now. No longer a hypothetical. So you should all be concerned, as I am. I know. But you guys are just overreacting. He's not going to do all this stuff. He's not going to do Project 2025. Oops. Nope, that's exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. Disaster. Okay. Anyway. Thank you, Amanda, in the chat. Hardly get notified when your videos first come out, but I think I got you today. Yes, that is seems to be a problem. Seems to be a problem with YouTube not sending out notifications to people. So if you're in that boat, please hit the bell icon. And if you already have and it's still not working out, just check it out. I have a schedule. Videos go up starting at 4 o'clock every hour, 5 days a week, 6 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, okay, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. For some reason, I want to break out into, rock around the clock, but I'm not going to do that. But that's the schedule. Every day, videos being released at the same time. So please check them out. Even if you don't get a notification, video will always go out at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock onwards, to a total of about roughly 5 videos a day. You can check those out. Always at the same time, always right here on our YouTube page. So just remember that. And of course, I share them on our BlueSky, and I share them on Facebook, on Threads. I will share out those links to these videos. So please check them out. There is a problem with YouTube. There was an algorithm change, and we are getting just absolutely destroyed by it. Let's be honest. Okay, I'm getting destroyed. It's not good. Things are bad when it comes to new people, existing subscribers are not being notified, not knowing that content is out. They're not seeing it, not watching it. It's not getting sent out to people who are not subscribed. It's not good. It's not good. I do always see them just not going generally live. Well, that's good. That at least you're seeing that stuff. And live is going back to doing lives is generally been pretty new as of late. So it's been a while since I started going live again, but it, you know, uh, I am now. Yeah, I am doing live shows roughly around 2 o'clock, EST during the day. So just to let you know, if you don't get a notification, it's likely because it just didn't send it to you. I'm generally live, so just letting everybody know, getting on the same page here. There are some issues with the algorithm, with videos getting out, with that new algorithm change, and I'm just like everybody else. I am trying to navigate these changes so that y'all can watch the show, watch the clips, and all that stuff, and be informed. Share them out when you see them. Please leave a comment, give us a like, all that wonderful stuff, and that does help. Okay. So news is definitely breaking fast. Absolutely. Absolutely it is. And it's tough to keep up with for all of us, I think. All right. With that said, why don't I take some, drink some coffee first and then dive into the show. Sorry, that took a little bit longer than I had hoped, but anyway, let's do it. Ooh, that is a unfortunate picture. Yikes. Okay. I do have a knack for finding these very inappropriate, awful pictures of Donald Trump. Yeah. So it's a curse. It is a curse. President Donald Trump's FEMA freeze is already leading to states being denied resources to help them rebuild after devastating storms. And it's not just affecting blue states, it's also affecting red states. In fact, on Friday, the state of Arkansas received one such denial from the federal government regarding funding for something called individual assistance through FEMA. Now, the funding would have assisted individuals and households who were impacted by severe storms and tornadoes that had occurred on March 14th, 2025. So, this is what is direct, assistance, right? Or individual assistance, I should say. It is assistance that directly impacts some of the poorest Americans. Individual assistance benefits survivors directly to assist those who have uninsured or are underinsured, and it helps with their necessary expenses and serious needs. That assistance is meant to help people return to a safe, sanitary, and functional residence, which you would think would be the goal of the federal government. But apparently, no, not under this one. Okay. But again, underinsured, generally either poor folks or, and this is important too, people who live in places where the insurance market has gone away or is going away. And that's really important because last year, the American National Group, an insurance company owned by Brookfield Asset Management Reinsurance Partners, ceased its homeowners insurance business in 9 states. A move precipitated by declining profitability in those markets, the company told Newsweek. The shift was part of plans to pull back in the states of Arkansas, California, Colorado, Louisiana, Minnesota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, and Washington, according to a company official. So some of those states, of course, California had the giant wildfires which have destroyed a lot of homes, especially in the LA area, and of course the tornadoes in in Arkansas, places like Oklahoma. So all these different places have had issues, and I'm surprised Florida is not on the list because Florida has also seen seen their home insurance markets pull out their businesses because you know what, you might not believe in climate change, but your insurance company does. Very important. Very important to note. That could be the difference between you being able to get home insurance so that if one of those natural disasters destroys your house, you at least have something to fall back on and to nothing. So now that said, the people who don't have that insurance were getting helped by FEMA. But now, not anymore. Not anymore. The people in Arkansas are some of the people that need this assistance the most. And FEMA is saying, no, we're not going to help you. You're on your own. And so it makes me remember the false claims made by Donald Trump during the election. Remember, he's, Joe Biden, he is directing FEMA to not help red states. That's right. They're denying Republicans and they're only helping blue states. That was a lie, okay, because FEMA was helping red states under Joe Biden. But this is now coming true under Donald Trump. His FEMA is not helping anyone, red states or blue states. Last week, the Trump administration officially denied the state of Washington's request for disaster aid related to last year's bomb cyclone that killed at least 2 people and damaged hundreds of homes and businesses. The administration sent a letter responding to former Governor Jay Inslee, who filed the request for $34 million to FEMA before his term ended, and he was replaced by the current Democratic Governor Bob Ferguson. The letter says this: "This is in response to your January 14, 2025 request for a major disaster declaration for the state of Washington as a result of severe storms. Straight line winds, flooding, landslides, and mudslides during the period of November 17th to November 23rd, 2024. You specifically requested a declaration for public assistance for 6 counties and hazard mitigation statewide. Based on our review of all the information available, it has been determined that supplemental federal assistance under the Stafford Act is not warranted. Therefore, I must inform you that your request for a major disaster declaration is denied." That's right. Just denied. And why was it denied? There has to have been a reason, right? There was not. There was no reason. The letter did not give any explanation as to why these benefits were denied. And look, the Fox affiliate in Seattle reported that the cyclone ravaged local infrastructure like highways, utilities, and public electrical power systems, and that thousands of damage reports were filed. So it's not like they didn't need the help. They did. But of course, Trump said, nah, not going to do it. Not interested. Not only that, but last week the administration had also notified North Carolina that it would no longer fully reimburse the state for funds it's spending to recover from Hurricane Helene. You know, they're doing exactly what they accused President Joe Biden of doing. Just denying states help that they need for disaster relief. It's projection. Of course. With MAGA, it's always projection. Always projection. Look, Arkansas, yes, is appealing. And by the way, the governor of Arkansas is Sarah Huckabee Sanders, Trump's former press secretary. She has to go through an appeal to get funds from Trump's FEMA. Even though she was a loyal Trump soldier, one of the most loyal, she's not getting the money. The state of Arkansas is not getting the money. So if you were a red state, you're on your own. You're all on your own. I mean, look, if I wanted to be petty, and I don't want to be, I could point out how this is a real FAFO situation. Arkansas voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. Okay? A red state. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to be petty. I don't want any state or any person to be ignored. You see, I want a government that actually helps people in need. I don't care how you voted. Now, I know that's not exactly a popular position these days, but that's how I feel. I think of the family that has small children, okay, that have been just devastated by these natural disasters. Their parents might have voted for Donald Trump over, I don't know, hating trans people or something. Make up a reason, okay? But you know, that's they voted for, or maybe even the economy. I don't know. So they voted the wrong way. They voted for this. Yes. But did the child vote for this? No, kids can't vote. That kid is innocent. I don't want innocent people to suffer for their parents and other people's mistakes. We're better than that. And we're better than Donald Trump. Okay. All right, moving on. It appears that U.S. citizens are now receiving federal orders telling them to leave the country. Now, on Friday, Nicole Marjorie received an email instructing her to leave the country within 7 days. So now Marjorie is not a migrant. She is not an immigrant. She is a 40-year-old U.S. citizen. Now, she is an immigration attorney and lives in Boston, Massachusetts. So why would she get a notice to self-deport? That seems rather strange. Now, MSNBC asked her, and she basically was like, I don't know, they must be incompetent. They're doing something wrong. And had said during this interview that there had been no follow-up to that notice, which told her, it is time for you to leave the United States. Here's some of that interview.
I think since then it's become, well, it's more likely than not that it's an administrative error on DHS's part, but that's concerning too. They're not being careful with who they're sending these notices to.
Well, did you reach somebody from DHS? What did you do after you got this and determine, hey, this might be actually a legit letter from them, even if it is an administrative error?
So I personally have not heard from anybody at DHS or reached anybody there. The email did come from a no reply email address. They have made some general statements about the email since all of this went public. And they did confirm that it's a real email and that they will be dealing with emails sent in error on a case-by-case basis. That being said, I have not heard from them about my particular case.
I mean, big picture here, what does the fact that you, a U.S. citizen, born here, received this email, what does it tell you about the process and where it is now? Had you ever, in your years as an immigration attorney, ever heard of anything quite like this?
Never quite like this. And it tells me that the process is a mess right now. DHS isn't being careful. I think their main goal is to scare people into leaving the United States. They want immigrants to be uncomfortable here. And I think the takeaway is not only that it was sent to me, but it was sent to a lot of people that received this email.
So the process is a mess. Yeah, it is a mess, like a lot of different things in the government. But I think it's worse than that, okay? Because you look at that letter, that's frightening, right? The government's, we're going to come for you. We're going to deport you, okay? And so, wait a minute, I'm an American citizen. the hell? And here's the thing. Doge is working with government agencies right now to hand off all of our personal information that they stole from government servers. Okay? Even though a judge said you need to delete all that data right now, they're not. They haven't. And they've been handing it over to immigration. They've been handing it over to ICE to go and target immigrants. Well, that's fine. If you're a citizen, you should be okay, right? No, that's the problem. ICE raids have already swept up American citizens, people who have legal status, that are legally allowed to be here. They have been disappeared on the streets and some of them sent to El Salvador on made-up charges of terrorism. Terrorism. So no, being a citizen is not protecting you, especially since they want to ignore due process. And that's the other part, okay? Due process. Why is due process so important? Why do you keep talking about due process? Due process. Due process is how you prove that you're a citizen and that you're allowed to be here in the first place. If you are denied due process, then there is nothing that can stop this administration from sending you or me to El Salvador whenever it wants. And that's the real problem here. This is extremely frightening. All right. Once we start disappearing U.S. citizens into these El Salvadoran camps, as Trump has already talked about doing, he floated that idea, talking with Bukele, we need 5 more of these places. Then we're going to go after the homegrowns. We're in real big trouble. And I don't think people quite realize it yet. It's not like, oh, we're inching towards it. No, we're already here. We're in Nazi Germany. Okay? That's where we're at. It's incredibly scary. Now, in a statement, a senior official with the Department of Homeland Security said, oh, no, this was a separate agency, Customs and Border Protection. They're issuing the parole termination notices to people who they say do not have lawful status to remain in the United States. Well, the parole was legal status. So they're just taking it. They're just taking legal status away from people. I mean, that's it. Now, the official said CBP used the known email addresses of the alien to send notifications. If a non-personal email, such as an American citizen contact, was provided by the alien, so notice how they're shifting the blame onto the immigrants. Notices may have been sent to unintended recipients. CBP is monitoring communications and will address any issues on a case-by-case basis. And then adds, to be clear, if you're an alien, being in the United States is a privilege and not a right. We are acting in the best interest of our country and enforcing the law accordingly, but without due process, by the way. So you're actually not. This statement does not make me feel better, and it shouldn't. Okay? And notice, too, that it's the immigration lawyers that are getting these notices. And she's not the only one. Carmen Bello, who's also a Boston-based immigration attorney, had her own notice given to her. She told the local NBC station, they're not even checking if it's the attorney's email or the applicant's email. I think there's a lack of responsibility on the department on sending the letters like this. Perhaps, once again, they're erring on the side of, oh, these people are idiots and so they're just randomly sending out letters. No, I think they're targeting immigration lawyers. It's not like the Trump administration has not been targeting law firms. They have. Many of the firms that he has been going after were once home to lawyers who were involved in investigations of Trump himself, such as former special counsel Robert Mueller. NPR spoke with attorneys at a half a dozen organizations that regularly team up with big law firms that provide pro bono assistance to challenge government actions or policies. All of them are saying that they have deep concerns that Trump's campaign against law firms will cause them to pull back from pro bono work that is at odds with Trump's own views. Some of them say it's already happening. Dustin Rinders, the legal director of the Texas Civil Rights Project, says, increasingly I'm hearing about political considerations being an issue in firms deciding whether they're going to be able to assist. So they're going after law firms, and now it looks like they're probably going after immigration lawyers. I think it's pretty clear that Trump is not interested in the work that they do, not in favor of it. And so when you see them, two of them get hit with these self-deport notices, I don't think that's incompetence. I don't think it's coincidence either. I think it's an effort to target people, since they have already shown that they're more than willing to disappear people who are legally here to an El Salvadoran prison camp. This is the weaponization of government, everyone. This is meant to chill dissent, to scare these firms and these lawyers into not fighting against the lawless actions of this regime. Call it for what it is. Trump said he would like to deport homegrowns, as he worded it. Yep. Showed y'all that video yesterday. Incredibly scary stuff. Oh, gee, I don't know. You guys just, you're worrying about nothing. None of this stuff will ever happen. What I say to people who say that. Because it's happening. LGBT plus is not safe either. Yes. First it's the immigrants, then it's the, first trans people, then immigrants, then others. Congressional Republicans will never wake up, Crashlau. I'm sorry, but they're complicit. They're in on it. They will not wake up because they're getting everything that they want. They're completely 100% complicit with all of this. Okay. Let's talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Kind of lighten it up a little bit. It appears that hecklers have come for Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene. During a town hall on Tuesday night, a young woman insulted the lawmaker, calling her a butch-bodied bigot.
Ladies and gentlemen, they're all inside the interior of the United States.
How about the KKK?
All inside the interior of the United States.
The terrorist group going after black and
You can head out. The protest is outside. Thank you very much. Protest is outside.
You butch-bodied bigot! You butch-bodied bigot!
Protest is outside. Bye. Have fun out there.
So that happened. Okay. Now, Butch Body Bigot, of course, is a callback to something that Representative Jasmine Crockett had called Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you remember, Greene had made a comment about Crockett's supposed fake eyelashes. I don't know. I don't really care if they were fake or not. Crockett looked fantastic, and so I don't understand why that was a thing. But anyway, it happened. And look, Crockett had the audacity to challenge one of Greene's ridiculous questions at the time. And in response to that quip about her eyelashes, Crockett asked the chair, I'm just curious to better understand your ruling if someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach, blonde, bad-built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct? Well, obviously it would. We could talk about personalities, but also it would be, or at least, personal characteristics, and shouldn't also be talking about somebody's alleged fake eyelashes. Y'all are supposed to be doing, work. Of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene She doesn't. All she does is go on like these right-wing talk shows and, you know, all sorts of, and it spouts all sorts of garbage. Okay, that's what she does. But anyway, Republicans in Congress during that time, they showed that you can, if you're a Republican, you can get away with saying this stuff. That's it. Democrats, of course, cannot. Thing is, this didn't happen in Congress. So, you know, that protester had a lot to say. And look, the right, I should say, the night did not go very well for Marjorie Greene. Yes, she was in her friendly district. She did have some protesters, and she even responded to some criticism. It was a question from someone named Christina that ended up rubbing Greene the wrong way. And here's how she responded.
Gutting of Social Security and Medicaid. Wow. Doge gutting our government with a chainsaw approach and the utter destruction and ignoring of our Constitution and rule of law. He is not well physically or mentally, and he's making nonsensical orders based on his whim of the day. How are you going to rein him in to protect us? Oh, poor Christina. Poor Christina. Well, I'm sure, Christina, you think that you're pretty smart. But the reality is you are being completely brainwashed by whatever source of news you listen to. The facts are this. No one has lost their Social Security. No one has lost their benefits. Criminals have lost it. Yes. Fraudsters have lost it. Yes. And illegal aliens have lost it. Yep. And if you want to defend those people where you hate our country and you hate America, what am I going to do? I am going to stand by my president. I am going to support my president. And I'm going to fight for his agenda with everything I have in Congress. And that's what I'm going to do for the 14th District, because I know for a fact you are going to have more money in your pocket. You're going to have more jobs available. You're going to have a stronger economy. And you're going to have safe cities and communities to live in. And you'll be safe from terrorists, cartels, and criminals. And God bless President Trump for that.
Oh, poor Margie. Poor Margie. Literally none of that stuff that you said was true. No criminals have lost their benefits, or fraudsters, or illegals, because guess what? Undocumented immigrants don't receive benefits. They're ineligible for those benefits. But you know who has? American citizens. Like Leonard Ned Johnson, an 82-year-old Seattle man who was mistakenly declared dead by the SSA and lost his Medicare, Social Security, and yes, even his bank funds. They took $5,000 out of his account. Same thing happened to 90-year-old Colorado veteran Tom Kind. Others have been affected by this. Thanks to Doge. They lost their benefits. They were declared dead. They weren't dead. They were very much alive. But yes, like, you want to talk about fraud. All right, let's talk about all the fraud. Turns out, very, very little. According to a July SSA Inspector General's report, improper payments accounted for less than 1% of all benefits paid from 2015 to 2022. Most of those errors were made to living individuals due to eligibility or income reporting mistakes, not fraud. A separate Treasury Department review found $31 million in federal payments, including but not limited to Social Security, went to deceased individuals over a 3-year period, which amounts to $215 million recoverable over that time span, which is a fraction of the SSA's total budget. So it is a drop in the bucket. Marjorie Greene, you're full of crap. Now, in the economy, by the way, it's not stronger. It's actually gotten weaker. And a majority of voters now blame Donald Trump for it, for the inflation. Speaking of crime, she talked about crime. That's also way down. Terrorism. Oh, you're going to be safe from the terrorists. When's the last time we had a terrorist attack? Other than, of course, January 6th. Those are our homegrown terrorists, you see. Homegrown far-right extremists. Those are a real problem. Those are the people actually doing attacks. But, of course, Marjorie, that's her base. So she's not going to talk about them. No, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a liar. She's gaslighting her own constituents. And then saying that, oh, if you don't agree with my lies, then you must hate America. No, you hate America. It ain't us that hates America. We love the truth. No, the people who hate America are the ones that are currently in power attempting to remake it into a place where only straight, white, Christian, male conservatives rule everything. That is what they're trying to turn this country into, and we need to put a stop to it. All right. Moving on. Let's get to Donald Trump screwing over old people. Shocker. On Tuesday, President Donald Trump screwed over anyone that was set to pay less for their prescription drugs. Trump recently signed an executive order that delays Medicare negotiations for a broad category of prescription drugs, which was part of the Inflation Reduction Act. So basically, on Tuesday, he handed the pharmaceutical industry a major win as it continues to lobby against any effort to rein in its pricing power. Trump's order is ironically titled, Lowering Drug Prices by Once Again Putting Americans First. It's a funny way of doing it, by doing the complete opposite. Okay, they're not putting Americans first, they're putting the drug companies first. Now, the order instructs Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to work with Congress to modify the Medicare price negotiation program that was established under the Biden administration. Now, look, I've criticized that because I don't think it goes far enough. I don't think it allows enough negotiation for prescription drugs. Trump reversed it and said, no, you're not going to be able to negotiate for any prescription drugs. Oh, great. Lovely. Now, what's the modification then? Well, Trump is calling for a 4-year extension of the period during which something called small molecule prescription drugs are exempt from price negotiations with Medicare. What exactly are small molecule drugs? Basically pills. It's any medication in pill form. That represents about 90% of all medications currently in circulation. That means that Trump just said, oh, 90% of these drugs are going to be delayed from being able to be negotiated with for these pharmaceutical companies for 4 years. Oh, lovely. So now typically, okay, they're not subject to the price negotiation process until at least 9 years after their FDA approval date. Now, Trump's adding another 4 years onto that, just as some people are starting to benefit from lower drug prices. It kind of feels like a giant rug pull for those people. It's going to increase the cost to regular people. It's also increasing the cost to the government. In fact, the CBO has estimated in the first 6 years negotiated drug prices are available through Medicare, the government would save nearly $100 billion. But I guess that's not going to happen now. Steve Knievel, which, by the way, come on, Steve Knievel? That's awesome. But he's a drug policy advocate at Public Citizen, right? He warned in a statement that by pushing back the negotiation date for many of these drugs, Trump's order could do the opposite of its stated goal, reversing recent progress on this issue. He said, further delaying Medicare drug price negotiation would lead to higher prices for patients and taxpayers, not lower ones. Empowering Medicare to negotiate drug prices is the only significant legislative measure taken to address big pharma price gouging in the last 40 years. Now, Trump proposes to undermine that singular achievement. Extending negotiation delay periods is nothing but a total capitulation to the demands of drug corporation lobbyists that want to continue to overcharge Medicare beneficiaries and taxpayers. So I thought the whole point, by the way, of Doge was to make the government more efficient. If you allow the government to negotiate prices with the drug companies, that lowers prices for everyone, saves money, and yes, makes things more efficient. But apparently they don't actually care about that at all. In fact, the advocacy group Protect Our Care said following the order that Trump just caved to Big Pharma again. His new executive order pushes to delay Medicare drug price negotiations, giving drug companies 4 extra years to price gouge seniors. The only winners here are the drug companies. Well, I thought Trump was promising to lower drug prices. And if you fell for it, if you believed him, you fell for it again. Because how many things that he has said that he was going to do to help consumers that he has absolutely lied about? Pretty much everything. Oh, remember grocery prices. They're going to be lower on day one. Oh, they went up. Oh, prescription drugs. I want a lower drug price. Oh, not going to do that now. Of course. Now, the reason, of course, is that Trump is corrupt. He is bought by donors, and he is working for the donors against the will of the people. Polling found that a strong majority supports letting Medicare negotiate prescription drug prices. But of course, Trump does not care about the majority. He does what the lobbyists tell him to do because they got the money. And to show you just how much influence these drug lobbyists have, his order uses the same language that big pharma lobbyists have used in their messaging against allowing Medicare to negotiate drugs. Okay, the first section of the order states that the 4-year difference between when small molecule drugs and biologics are subject to Medicare price negotiations under current law is known as the pill penalty, a label that the pharmaceutical industry's largest lobbying organization has invoked repeatedly in its attacks on the Biden-era program. The pill penalty language was also used in ads run by a front group called Seniors for Better Care, which, as Sludge's Donald Shaw and David Moore revealed, is not an actual seniors group, but rather a front for a lobbyist-led shell group called the American Prosperity Alliance. Yes, anything that's called American Prosperity whatever, you know it's basically to represent giant corporations and to allow them to continue screwing us. Seniors for Better Care has ramped up its spending on ads that appear to be targeting Trump and his inner circle, Sean Moore had reported back in February. And that's not all. Earlier this year, Republican lawmakers in the House and Senate, including recipients of pharmaceutical industry campaign money, introduced legislation that would delay the price negotiation process for small molecule drugs, signaling Republican support for the objectives laid out in Trump's executive order. Nothing to help the American people. No bills out there that would actually lower prices for average consumers. But you got this pharma-led, pharma-crafted bill. Not only a bill in Congress, but also an executive order by Trump. I think it's pretty clear who's running this whole show. It's all the lobbyists. It's all these corporate interests. Make no mistake, Patients for Affordable Drugs Executive Director Meredith Basie said of the legislation, this is yet another attempt by Big Pharma to rig the system in its favor at the expense of patients. And there it is. Again, if you thought Donald Trump cared about this because he once said he was going to lower prices, then you were duped. And you know what? That's actually okay to admit. Because Donald Trump, at his core, is and always has been a con man who puts himself and the people who give him money first. Always. Okay. Last story. All right. That here. Okay. Cool. A new survey out shows that Democratic voters are not interested in compromising with President Donald Trump's lawless regime and actually want their leaders to fight. The poll taken by Harvard Centers for American Political Studies and Harris between April 9th through the 10th found that 72%, almost 3/4 of all Democratic voters, support politicians like Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez, who are calling on Democrats to adopt a more aggressive stance towards Trump and his administration and to fight harder rather than leaders who are willing to compromise with President Donald Trump. Just 28% of Democratic voters said that they supported this so-called moderate approach. Across the political spectrum, 53% of respondents said that they favored politicians who were willing to work with Donald Trump. It's actually down 2 percentage points from the Harvard-Harris March survey. So, look, I know we've got a long way to go, but more Americans are beginning to realize that what's going on here is not normal and that perhaps we should not be compromising with fascists to do fascism. Great. Again, long way to go, but as usual, progressives are leading the way. The survey result comes as AOC and Bernie Sanders have been going around the country with their Fight Oligarchy tour. Now, that tour is not going to safe blue areas, okay? They're going everywhere. They're going to the heartland. They're going to the south. They're in the Rust Belt. In fact, I'm going to show you an image here from Nampa, Idaho. If I can get the right one, that is. There you go. That is an image from Idaho. Not only that, but more than 20,000 people had packed into the Huntsman Center in Salt Lake City on Sunday, with 4,000 more in an overflow area to hear Bernie Sanders and AOC rail against extreme and growing wealth inequality and the toxic division and corruption that it requires to survive, and to demand a fair economy for working people, along with the democracy and freedoms that uphold it. So yes, even in Utah, one of the reddest states in the country, Bernie Sanders was welcomed with this. Not only that, but last month, about 30,000 people gathered at Denver's Civic Center Park to hear from these two lawmakers. After 10,000 people attended a rally in the northern Colorado town of Greene, thousands have also turned out in Nebraska, Iowa, and Michigan. So now I have to ask you, is Chuck Schumer filling stadiums? No, he is not. Okay. Chuck Schumer has the charisma of a piece of driftwood. But more importantly, though, is he's not really fighting Donald Trump. He says he is, but he's not. He's helping Trump. He's passing the CR. He's not putting up any real resistance in the Senate for that. Okay? And he's supposed to be the Senate minority leader. And you've got other Democrats that continue to vote in favor of Donald Trump's nominees and legislation like the Laken-Riley Act, which gets rid of due process for immigrants. You had Democrats crossing the aisle to vote for that. 12 of them. Fetterman, Cuellar, and others, these so-called moderates who are just sitting there and they're enabling Donald Trump. They're helping him. They're providing aid and comfort to what I consider to be a domestic threat. Yes, Republicans, Donald Trump, the GOP, they're a domestic threat to our democracy. They're very, very clear and intent on tearing it all down and replacing it with something much, much worse. So that's what's going on, okay? And so the Democrats that are helping Donald Trump are some of the least popular in Congress. And you can see who is the most popular and who is the least. You got Fetterman at negative 17. 17. AOC plus 62. Yeah. AOC is at the top because she is actually fighting them. Democratic voters want people to fight. The problem is that most of the party will not fight in a meaningful way because they have been paid to lose. Paid by the lobbyists, the business interests, to surrender to Republicans that normally represent those business interests. And then they call it, oh, bipartisanship, when the corporations got everything they wanted. And then they say, isn't it so wonderful that we can both agree to help the very, very rich? It's funny how that works out. But things are different now than they were before, okay? The current Democratic establishment is too weak and ineffectual to fight against real fascism, which is where we're at now. And that, of course, frustrates normie Democrats because they finally understand and see what a threat the far right really is. Now, I could go back and I could say, wow, I warned you guys, but that's not going to do anything. That's not a good plan. Okay? No. The thing is, what we need to do is we all need to get together. The left, the normie Democrats that are starting to wake up. We need to all get together and to get out on the streets. And you know what? I've seen some of that. I've talked about some of these protests, and there's more to come, and I love it. But there's more that could be done. What I would love to see, and I don't know if this is going to happen because the logistics of it are really, really difficult to organize. It would require so many people, but I would be in favor of something called a general strike. Shut the country down for a day. Nobody buys anything. Nobody goes to work, which is the hard part, obviously, because not everybody can afford to do that. But you do that, shut it down, we all protest, message sent. I think that would definitely grab some attention, wouldn't it? And if there are groups that are planning a general strike, that are organizing to that, goal, that would be amazing. That would be fantastic. But aside from that, which I think would help, sending a message to your elected Democrats, tell them to fight harder, doing protests, and yes, setting up primary challenges like David Hogg, who is now, I believe, the DNC co-chair. He's targeting Democrats for primaries. These are good steps to take. So let's do it. Let's keep building on these movements till there is a large populist revolt against the Trump regime, a peaceful revolt, of course, against the Trump regime and against the Democrats that are helping him. Okay. That's all I got today. So hopefully you get inspired and enjoyed the show. Thank you for watching here. Thank you for the comments. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very important that you do so. Helps us out greatly. Because, need your help to continue doing the show. So if you could sign up to become a patron, sign up to become a channel member. I do want to thank Gemini SG for signing up to become a channel member. Go to our Patreon, patreon.com/jeffwaldorf, and you can help us out on all the different platforms by signing up to be a member and all that stuff. Did I ignore any messages? I don't think so. I don't know if I ignored any messages. I don't think I did. But there is a lot. So anyway, yeah. Please take care of yourself. Take care of your families and your communities. That is where real resistance actually begins. It begins on a local level, and you can build it up until it is something that is massive. And that is the goal here, to get together in our communities with our friends and our families to say hell no to the Trump regime and the stuff that they're trying to do to all of us. Not just to us, but to immigrants, to our LGBTQ plus friends, family, and neighbors. We got to draw the line and to say, no more. You're not coming after our rights. And we're going to make sure that you end up leaving office, that you're out of here. All right. Anyway, see you all hopefully tomorrow, same time, same place. And that's it. I love you all. Have a great night.